GM has just thrown Wall Street into shock, and the auto industry is scrambling to figure out what just happened. Out of nowhere, Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors, has unveiled a $25,000 pickup truck, something analysts said was impossible in today's market. For months, investors and experts have claimed that affordable trucks were dead, that rising production costs, supply chain struggles, and electrification made it impossible to deliver a quality pickup at that price. And yet, GM just proved them wrong, and in doing so, they may have changed the future of the American auto industry. This isn't just another product reveal. It's a calculated power move that could completely realign GM's place in the market. Think about it. Ford is struggling with pricing on its F-150 Lightning. Ram has been forced into massive discounts just to move inventory. And Toyota has been carefully positioning itself with hybrids instead of taking huge EV risks. But here comes GM, under Mary Barra's leadership, cutting through all the noise with a $25,000 pickup that doesn't just make headlines, it makes sense. Wall Street never saw this coming because they were too busy looking at GM's challenges in EV production, its lagging share price, and its shrinking margins. What they missed was Barra quietly pushing for a truck designed to hit exactly where the market is most vulnerable: affordability. This $25,000 pickup is not some stripped-down work truck that feels like a compromise. From what GM has revealed, it's designed to capture both value-conscious buyers and those who have been priced out of the truck market altogether. For years, trucks have been drifting into luxury territory, with average prices climbing well past $60,000. That has left a huge gap at the lower end of the market. Everyday Americans, small business owners, and young buyers who still want the utility and toughness of a pickup, but can't justify a payment that looks like a mortgage. GM's move plugs directly into that gap, and if the truck delivers on its promises, it could dominate a segment that competitors have neglected for too long. Mary Barra has been criticized over the years for being too cautious, for not moving fast enough on EVs, and for letting Tesla, Rivian, and even Ford steal headlines. But this surprise announcement flips that narrative on its head. This is a bold, almost ruthless play that takes advantage of GM's manufacturing scale, its supply chain efficiency, and its ability to build trucks profitably where others can't. Wall Street may have doubted GM's ability to innovate, but this $25,000 pickup shows that Barra understands something most analysts forgot. The auto industry doesn't move forward on hype. It moves forward on what people can actually afford. And here's where it gets even more interesting. This truck isn't just a consumer play, it's an investor play. GM's stock has been dragging for years, overshadowed by Tesla's hype and Ford's flashy EV announcements, but Wall Street lives on hard numbers. A $25,000 pickup truck that can sell in massive volume is the kind of product that analysts love because it signals sustainable demand. Trucks are already the most profitable segment in the US market, and by undercutting the competition, GM just positioned itself to not only grab new buyers, but to steal customers directly from Ford, Ram, and even Toyota. If GM can deliver strong margins while selling at that price, investors will suddenly see GM not as a laggard, but as a market disruptor. And let's be clear, this isn't about chasing Tesla. It's about reclaiming the crown in a space GM knows better than anyone. Tesla's Cybertruck might dominate headlines, but it's priced way above the reach of most buyers, and production is still crawling along. Rivian's R1T, cool truck, but expensive and niche. Meanwhile, Ford's F-150 Lightning has been slapped with price hikes, supply bottlenecks, and demand that's cooling faster than expected. All of that leaves a wide-open lane for GM to charge through with a product that feels like a throwback to when the trucks were built for the masses, not just the wealthy. Mary Barra's strategy here looks almost surgical. Instead of fighting a losing battle on premium EVs where Tesla already has the spotlight, she's moved GM into a blue ocean strategy. Affordability. It's the same play Toyota used for decades to dominate the car market. Don't just build flashy vehicles, build vehicles that the majority of people can actually buy. That's what GM is tapping into. And it's why this announcement has rattled Wall Street so hard. Investors weren't expecting innovation to come from cost leadership, but that's exactly the kind of disruption that reshapes entire markets. And if we zoom out, the timing couldn't be better. The US consumer is strapped with inflation, interest rates are high, and auto loan defaults are rising. People still need vehicles, but they can't keep paying $50,000, $60,000, or even $70,000 for a new truck. By rolling out a $25,000 pickup, GM isn't just selling a truck. They're offering relief to a market that desperately needs it. That builds brand loyalty, it drives volume, and it sets the stage for GM to capture customers for the long haul. This could be the move that stabilizes GM's position, while others in Detroit are bleeding cash on slow-selling EVs and overpriced trucks. And you can already imagine the ripple effect across Detroit. Ford is staring at a nightmare scenario. Its bread and butter F-Series lineup is built on the assumption that customers will keep swallowing higher and higher prices. If GM proves that a $25,000 truck can sell profitably at scale, Ford suddenly looks out of touch with the everyday buyer. Ram, under Stellantis, is in even deeper trouble. Their trucks have been heavily reliant on discounts just to stay competitive. And if GM undercuts them at the entry level, Ram will either be forced to slash prices even further, hurting their margins, or risk losing a massive chunk of the market. Tesla, on the other hand, faces a completely different kind of threat. Elon Musk has positioned the Cybertruck as the futuristic, high-tech alternative to legacy pickups, but its pricing puts it in luxury territory. GM's move exposes Tesla's biggest weakness: accessibility. Most Americans simply can't afford a $70,000 truck, and once buyers realize they can get a GM-built pickup with proven reliability for a third of the price, the Cybertruck's appeal starts to shrink beyond the hype-driven early adopters. But here's the twist. This move doesn't just shake competitors, it reshapes consumer psychology. For years, buyers have been trained to believe that trucks cost luxury car money. GM just shattered that illusion. By planting a $25,000 option back on the table, they're reminding the market of what trucks used to be: affordable workhorses, not rolling status symbols. That psychological reset could force the entire industry to rethink how it prices vehicles, because once consumers see one company offering value, they'll demand it from everyone else. And Wall Street, they're not just shocked, they're scrambling to recalculate. Analysts had been betting on high-margin, low-volume EVs as the future path for profitability. GM just flipped the script by showing that volume and affordability could be the winning strategy instead. If this pickup sells in the numbers GM expects, investors will have no choice but to revisit their outlook on the company, and that could send GM's stock into a rally no one predicted just a month ago. Behind the scenes, Mary Barra's play looks less like a gamble and more like a masterclass in long-term positioning. GM has been laying the groundwork for this kind of move for years, but most people weren't paying attention. Take the supply chain, for example. While Ford and Stellantis were caught flat-footed by semiconductor shortages and rising raw material costs, GM quietly secured long-term contracts for key components. That gave them leverage not just in EV production, but also in scaling down costs for traditional trucks. Then there's manufacturing. GM has something few automakers can match: a vast network of flexible plants across North America. These aren't just assembly lines. They're profit machines optimized to squeeze every cent of efficiency out of production. Barra's team has leaned heavily on this advantage, using modular platforms and shared parts across multiple models to keep expenses low. This is exactly how GM can pull off a $25,000 pickup without it being a bare-bones compromise. And don't forget GM's aggressive push into battery and materials partnerships. Even though this truck isn't necessarily an all-electric vehicle, those investments matter. Why? Because they've allowed GM to drive down costs across its entire lineup. By locking in supply deals and developing in-house tech, GM now has more control over pricing than competitors who are still at the mercy of volatile markets. It's a hidden edge that makes this $25,000 price tag believable. But the real genius here might be how Barra reframed the conversation inside GM. For years, Detroit automakers have chased margin-heavy, high-end vehicles: massive SUVs, premium trims, loaded trucks. That worked while consumers had cheap credit and booming incomes. Today, that model is collapsing. Barra saw the shift coming and redirected GM toward affordability at the exact moment when buyers needed it most. It's not just a product decision, it's a cultural reset for GM, telling the company to stop chasing hype and start delivering what the market actually demands. And the results could be explosive. If GM sells this truck in serious volume, not only does it boost revenue, it creates a halo effect. Every Chevy and GMC dealer across America suddenly has a headline product to pull customers into showrooms. From there, GM can upsell, cross-sell, and rebuild loyalty in a way that hasn't been possible for years. It's a strategy that plays both offense and defense, winning back customers who left for competitors while protecting GM's turf in the heart of the market. And when you bring Washington into the equation, this $25,000 pickup becomes even more powerful. Lawmakers have been hammering automakers about affordability, union jobs, and the EV transition. GM just handed them a headline win, an American-built truck that regular people can actually afford. That's political gold. It gives GM leverage in policy negotiations, in securing subsidies, and in shaping the narrative that they're not just chasing profits. They're serving the working-class buyer that Washington claims to care about. Unions, too, will see this differently. One of the biggest tensions during the UAW strikes was the fear that EVs would destroy jobs and that automakers were chasing high-margin vehicles at the expense of volume. By committing to a $25,000 pickup, GM signals that it still believes in scale production, in building vehicles for millions, not just tens of thousands. That aligns directly with union interests. More volume means more work on the assembly lines. Mary Barra may have just bought herself more breathing room with the UAW, a group that's been increasingly aggressive toward Detroit's Big Three. And here's where it intersects with the EV transition. The industry has been obsessed with pushing expensive electric vehicles, betting that federal incentives would cover the gap. But consumer demand hasn't kept up. People want EVs, but they want them at prices they can afford. GM's affordable pickup shows a roadmap. Start with cost leadership in combustion or hybrid, build volume, and then roll that momentum into EV adoption. It's a hybrid strategy, literally and figuratively, that buys GM time while competitors bleed cash on EV-only gambles. This move also gives GM a stronger position in regulatory talks. When policymakers ask, why aren't you building affordable EVs? GM can point to this truck and say, look, we're already leading on affordability. Now help us bring the same formula to electric. It shifts the conversation away from accusations of being behind and positions GM as a problem solver in a market full of overpriced options. And let's not forget Wall Street's perspective again. Investors don't just look at one product. They look at the ecosystem. A $25,000 pickup that sells big numbers could fund GM's EV future. It generates the cash flow needed to reinvest in Ultium battery plants, in charging infrastructure, and in next-gen models. Instead of burning cash chasing EVs with thin margins, GM is creating a self-sustaining loop. Sell affordable trucks now, bankroll the EV transition later. That's what Mary Barra has essentially engineered, and it's why this is being called a genius move. Globally, this $25,000 pickup could be the key to unlocking markets GM has either struggled in or abandoned altogether. Take Mexico and South America. These regions are dominated by affordable, practical vehicles, and buyers there are extremely price-sensitive. If GM can deliver this truck at a competitive price, it could sweep up demand in markets where Toyota Hilux, Nissan Frontier, and other compact pickups have been the go-to choices for decades. It's not just about competing, it's about reestablishing GM as a dominant force outside the US. In Asia, the story is even more compelling. Markets like Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines run on pickup trucks as family vehicles and workhorses. These buyers don't want overstuffed $60,000 luxury models. They want reliability, toughness, and affordability. GM has struggled in those markets, often losing ground to Japanese automakers, but this move could swing the balance. Imagine GM walking into those markets and saying, here's an American-built pickup at the price of your current go-to. That alone could tilt loyalty back toward GM after years of decline. Even in China, where GM's joint ventures have faced headwinds, affordability remains king. Electric vehicles dominate the headlines there, but The truth is that millions of buyers still want combustion vehicles that are cheap, functional, and built by a trusted brand. By leveraging this pickup platform, GM could position itself not only in the US, but also as the global leader in value-driven utility vehicles, a category with massive demand. And here's the kicker. GM's ability to scale production at home gives it a competitive edge abroad. Many automakers build affordable trucks, but they can't push them into the US profitably because of tariffs, regulations, and brand positioning. GM has both the domestic base and the global distribution network to make this truck a worldwide hit. That means the $25,000 pickup isn't just an American strategy, it's potentially a global reset for GM's identity. Think about what that does to competitors. Toyota, Nissan, and Isuzu have relied on dominating affordable truck segments outside the US. If GM crashes back into that market with a product priced to win, it forces the Japanese brands to defend territory they've held for decades. Suddenly, GM isn't just a Detroit automaker fighting for relevance. It's a global disruptor again. Marketing this truck is where GM can turn a smart product into a cultural phenomenon. For decades, truck ads have focused on oversized power, chrome-heavy luxury, and lifestyle imagery that makes ownership look like joining an exclusive club. But that messaging doesn't land with buyers who are stretched thin by inflation and staring at sky-high loan rates. GM has the opportunity to flip the script. Position this truck as the return of the people's pickup, a vehicle built not for showing off but for getting things done. Expect GM to lean heavily on themes of value, patriotism, and practicality. Ads could hammer home the idea that this truck is built in America, built for America, directly appealing to the middle-class buyer who feels left behind by an auto industry obsessed with $70,000 toys. That kind of messaging has real emotional power, especially when combined with a price tag that feels almost unbelievable in today's market. The campaign practically writes itself. You don't need to break the bank to own a tough, reliable truck anymore. GM just brought affordability back. And let's not underestimate how much trust matters. Ford and Ram have been raising prices. Tesla has been overpromising and under-delivering, and many foreign automakers are focused on higher trims and hybrid tech. GM can stand out by being the brand that listens, the brand that actually gives people what they've been begging for. That authenticity in marketing could spark a word-of-mouth effect that no amount of flashy ads can buy. Dealers, too, will play a huge role. For years, they've complained that sky-high prices made it harder to move vehicles off lots. Now, with a $25,000 pickup, they finally have a vehicle that can pull traffic through the doors. Picture dealerships packed with customers who haven't bought a new vehicle in a decade because prices left them behind. GM isn't just selling a truck. It's restoring the dealership as a hub of community business, which also strengthens the brand's local footprint. And if GM leans into digital marketing the right way, targeting younger buyers who grew up seeing trucks as aspirational but unaffordable, this pickup could spark a generational shift. Imagine a 25-year-old construction worker or a small business owner being able to say, "I got a brand new truck for $25,000. That narrative spreads fast, especially on social media where affordability and practicality often go viral. GM could end up not just dominating the sales charts, but shaping the cultural conversation around what a truck should be in 2025 and beyond. If GM really pulls this off, we could be staring at the beginning of a full-blown pricing war in the US auto market. For the last decade, automakers have been in lockstep, steadily pushing prices higher and conditioning consumers to accept that trucks and SUVs should cost as much as luxury sedans. But a $25,000 pickup blows that illusion wide open. The moment buyers see one brand offering real value, they'll start demanding the same from everyone else. And that's when the dominoes fall. Ford, for instance, can't afford to sit on the sidelines. The F-Series has been America's best-selling vehicle for decades, and if GM starts eating into its market share at the entry level, Ford will have no choice but to respond. That could mean discounting current models, rushing out a lower-cost variant, or even rethinking its entire product strategy.